Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our podcast Inclusivity First. Today we have with us Maria. Hi Maria,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Truly an honor to sit with you and talk about such dear topics to us. The way our podcast is structured is in the beginning we talk about your journey and then predominantly about DNI.
Okay.
So let's start with your journey. So Maria, tell us about your journey in 1 minute.
My journey as a recruiting professional started...
No, just generally.
Just generally,
Where
okay.
did you do your schooling from there onwards?
Okay, I'm a pure Bangalorean, but a Tamil-speaking Bangalorean. I studied in Maruti Vidyalaya, which is like a 3-minute away from my home, because my father was very protective about his children. He said, when the school bell rings, that's when you leave the home.
Yes.
And I am in the space of recruiting for the last 20 plus years.
Wow.
My husband works for TCS, and I have 2 children, 14 and 4-year-old.
Perfect. So now let's try to understand your journey. So if I'm not wrong, your education was also, other than your symbiosis piece, was in Bangalore.
Yes.
So let's talk a bit about your higher education. Which college you went to? What did you study?
Okay.
And what did you think you will do with that degree and what did eventually happen?
I'm going to give you a big twist in the tail.
Sure.
So I did my 10 plus 3, which is after my 10th standard, I picked up a diploma course.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm a diploma holder. I did my diploma in secretarial practice. There's a story behind why I picked up diploma. So I was born in a family with, 3 girls and 1 boy.
Okay.
And there was a huge pressure on my parents because everyone in my family used to come and tell my dad, oh my God, you have 3 girls. How are you going to manage?
Yeah.
So I used to feel,
And you were the younger one? Or
I was the second one in the row.
Okay.
So I used to feel a little rebellious about that.
I like it. Nice.
So I said, I want to go into a course that gives me a job immediately.
Nice.
So I started my career when I was 19 and I figured out that my education wasn't enough. So I did my BCom through distance.
Okay.
And then I also did my post-graduation through distance.
Tell me one thing, right? And might be a bit off topic. A lot of people who have done distance education, now when they look back in time, they sometimes feel they lack that college camaraderie, that real college friendship, having fun, those circles that you build. Do you ever feel that?
Not really. I say that because my passion was to basically break that, thought process within my family.
Very focused.
Yes, my motivation was that I want to prove a point to my family who feels that girls are a burden in the house, right? So I really thoroughly enjoyed, my work life as well. So my first job was with Myco. I joined as an apprentice.
What was this company?
Myco Bosch.
Myco Bosch.
The manufacturers of
Okay.
Right. So I joined the manufacturing unit actually as an apprentice. And then I moved into, an accounts job. And then I moved into a networking job because I was trying to figure out what is a good profession. And then I came by recruiting by chance.
How did that happen?
My elder sister.
This is which year we are talking about? 2008?
2008,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. So my sister was in recruiting and she said, Nancy, why don't you give this a try? I'm known by my name Nancy more than Maria. So she said, why don't you give that a try? I said, but why do you think I should like it? She said, give it a try. And I got into recruiting. My first job was to hire for banks and, financial services
This
organizations.
was via a consultancy?
Yes.
How was this?
I joined INX. It was a consultancy company. And I used to headhunt. This was way back when Naukri was the only platform available for recruiters.
Right.
So we used to do a lot of headhunting calls. Very interesting because I could build my network through that kind of conversations. And I was able to switch from BFSI hiring to IT hiring through those connections.
Tell me one thing, right? Till this part of your career, you were predominantly doing not the most high level kind of work.
Yes.
And you were the kind of people you were talking to were average mid-level employees. Now suddenly you start talking to leadership level people.
Yes.
How was that change? And I'm sure in the beginning, you must have done some level of, mistakes.
Absolutely.
So tell us a couple of mistakes you did. What did you learn out of it?
I was working with this, company in Whitefield, and it was a IT software development.
They were your client?
No, I was working there.
Okay.
I was an employee of that company.
Okay.
And that particular day, I had to take my sister with me because she was interviewing with another company in that same locality. And I took her with me to my desk. And my HR head saw me with my sister, beside me, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "You're not supposed to do this. We are, you're supposed to maintain confidentiality." And I felt horrible after that, right? I thought I had made a big blunder. And typically the way I learn from my mistakes is I actually write down what mistake I made.
Really? Where do you write it down?
In my journal. I write down
Wow.
what happened, with who,
You should
why
have
it
gotten the
happened.
journal. You should have gotten the journal. Wow.
Yeah. And then I look at, if I have to get into a similar situation tomorrow, what would I do differently?
Wow.
Right.
So now if you look at your career, right, now you get into recruiting. And recruiting, if I'm not wrong, till that time, that age, was still not considered as intellectual as it is now.
Yes.
Now recruiting is looked at as human capital.
Yes.
That time they were like HR. You know what I mean, right? Like the psychology was bit not that respectful.
Yes.
So when you got there,
Yes.
did you in the beginning feel that recruiting is not as as easy as they say it is? It is not so simple.
Yes.
It is very strategic.
Yes.
Did you feel that?
Yes. A number of times, Raghav. Thanks for asking that question, right? So, for me, recruiting was not recruiting. It was HR, right? Like how Ankita was sharing with me.
Right.
Recruiting is a very small part of human resources. So when I wanted to pick up recruiting, two things that struck to me was HR means people, find it to be like, some person with power, with so much power, right? So I will be popular, I will be valued, I will be respected. Was my first driver. And the second driver was, it was to do with hiring, numbers, targets, and that gave me a kick.
Really?
So when my sister...
Incentives also.
Incentives also, yes. I wouldn't deny that. And there was a point in time when I made so much money through incentives that, my salary was lesser than.
Wow. Damn.
So when my sister introduced me to recruiting, these were the two things that were motivations for me to try it out. And honestly, after I got into this space, right, the kind of perspectives I heard from people was like, oh my God, did I choose something that's so terribly wrong? People used to say, what do? You do just, passing papers, you're just coordinating things, right? And my own husband, when he met me for the first time, he said...
This was which year?
This was in 2007,
Okay.
the year that I got married, and we were just figuring out the alliance and part of it,
Yes.
and we were doing this introduction, and I introduced myself, and he said, "Oh my God, you talk like a HR." So HR for people meant that these are people who have good communication skills, who can present themselves well, who can sell something well. And that's about it, right?
Right.
So, lot of mindset shift, right? And today, recruitment is such a strategic thing. When I speak about recruitment to my team or even to my leadership, right, I always talk about it as this is a strategic partnership. This is not about filling numbers. This is not about meeting your requirements, which are always open as of yesterday, right?
So
this is about...
I was reading about this, right? So what happened from the 2008 crash was that the overall world economy bounced back from 2009 and 2010 onwards. And when that happened, technology started getting adopted.
Yes.
With technology, more efficiency started coming in,
Yes.
things started scaling up, and talent became a war.
Yes.
And that's when recruitment slowly started getting the respect they needed.
Correct.
And now, after COVID, recruitment was the most important function in any organization you look at.
Yes.
So now let's take a step back, right? Now, when you start as a recruiter, I'm sure as you said, the base salary and the incentives were two different things.
Correct.
And if I'm not wrong, the base salary would not be that great that time. And again, when you start a career, you are not sure about incentives. So a lot of people who start their career in recruiting in TA, bulk of their compensation comes from incentives.
Correct.
But they are feeling as if that will not happen. And they choose options which are safer, with a higher fixed and low incentives. But what we have seen is people who really make money make in incentives.
Yes.
So what is your advice to those people who are deciding between fixed incentives? How should they do their math?
Yeah, this happens in the sales profession also. Right?
Ji.
Yeah. There is
Ji.
a fixed variable, there is a fixed component and a
Right.
variable component. So I have two perspectives to this, right? One is through incentives. you are getting incentivized for delivering your job.
Right.
I could be contradicting myself in this in this response, but Raghav, to be honest, right, when I was a recruiter and I used to get incentive, it was a great motivation for me, right, because it told me how much work I am doing.
Yeah.
It was so tangible, right? If I made more money through incentives, I'm a great performer. As simple as that,
Yeah.
right? But on the other side, and this comes more from my experience with ThoughtWorks, is that incentives is also very, I think, short-term motivation, right? If you're passionate about something, why would you wait for an incentive to make your passion come true, right? Like recently, a friend of mine was trying to get some inputs from me on how do we do diversity hiring. And I was talking to him about some of the plans that we
Right.
make, and he said, how do you motivate your recruiters to do diversity hiring? I said, why should you motivate? Right? It is something that we care about and we should do it, right? He says, oh, it doesn't work like that in my company. We have to make sure that, when they make a diversity hire, they get a higher incentive. I said, oh, okay. That's not what we do here. People genuinely care about it and they want to do it because it's the right thing to do, not because it gives you a certain incentive. So
Makes sense. So now let's look at your career in recruiting. You start your first job, you move around a couple of companies. Then we realize that in a span of 3 or 4 years, you land this very impressive, very important role at ThoughtWorks. How did that happen? And that was a very shift up.
yes.
And usually everyone in their career has that one pivotal moment which changes the gears.
Yes.
And it is also, it's also a gamble.
Yes.
Because if it goes wrong, then that opportunity is gone for the life.
Yes.
So what happened? Tell us this ThoughtWorks job.
Yeah.
How did you get it? And while you were starting up, what were some of your apprehensions?
Yeah. So 11 years ago, when I was interviewing for ThoughtWorks, my experience was great because the kind of conversations we were having through interviews was really, really good.
Right.
But interestingly, no recruiter interviewed me.
Acha.
Yes.
Wow.
I interviewed with no recruiter
Wow.
from the organization. Every person that I met was either from, the staffing leadership or the office leadership or, somebody from the leadership. And I was actually in a dilemma. I was like, these people are not asking me anything about recruiting. How will they hire me, right? But it turned out to be, very, very meaningful after I joined the organization because the philosophy of hiring is about, do you have the right attitude? Do you have the right aptitude? Do you, are you demonstrating,
Right.
that promise? That
Right.
are you authentic? Integrity, right?
Yep.
This is the philosophy on which ThoughtWorks hires. So when I figured out that, this place worked out to me for the best. If you looked at my LinkedIn profile, you would know that any organization have not stayed for more than 18 months, maximum 24 months. Microsoft is the longest before ThoughtWorks. And Microsoft so because I worked in Bangalore and Hyderabad both. ThoughtWorks, I've spent 11 years. And the reason I'm here is that, every day we are talking about what is the right thing to do on one side and what is ambitious for us as individuals, as organization. And I've seen that growth, professionally for me happen so seamlessly. Like I've never felt stressed out doing my job at ThoughtWorks. Every morning is like, can I go to office today?
Wow.
It's that kind of a feeling which keeps me going here. And many thought workers that I interact with are always genuinely interested in helping you grow. They are giving you feedback on your face, not to criticize, right? But just to help you improve.
But do you ever feel that you stayed in an organization for 11 years? And a lot of people feel that. Sometimes, again, you grew very well. There's no question about it. But sometimes you feel your potential could have been higher if you jumped jobs.
Never felt that.
Amazing.
I actually jumped so many jobs before ThoughtWorks. And I never got to do what I want to do. I think here the flexibility is upon that individual, right? I as an individual can figure out what I want to do. And you get that support to do what you want to do. So, for example, right now, I'm the head of recruiting for ThoughtWorks. And I'm already thinking about, what should I be doing next, right? And I have this really crazy idea. When I talk about this idea to a lot of leaders in ThoughtWorks, all I'm hearing from them is, yeah, if you're interested, go for it.
What is the idea?
Not public yet.
So when you joined ThoughtWorks, how many people were there and now how many people are there in ThoughtWorks in India?
ThoughtWorks India, we were 1,200 when I joined, and now we are 5,000.
Wow, that's a very big.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. For an organization like ThoughtWorks, it's a lot of people because we've always, looked at organic growth. Recently, we've made some acquisitions, but early days, we were always looking at growing organically, and hiring was never like a pressuresome job. Like we didn't have a goal that we had to chase and make sure that we hire people and so on and so forth. So we've been very very deliberate about how we want to hire, who we want to hire, and we of course have scaled, but then there's been a method to that whole madness as well.
So Mehra, tell us one thing, right? Like now I'm talking to you, I'm confused about one thing. I have a feeling that you are a very good networker, but while I'm talking to you, I also feel you're a bit reserved. You don't like just go out and meet everyone. So what is your take on networking, and are you a good networker?
I'm not.
Yes.
How did you figure that
I
out?
could just talk to you and just see that, if someone opens up, you open up, but you are not, you're a reserved person, right? So in talent acquisition, don't you feel networking is very critical?
I used to feel that for a very long time,
Right,
Raghav.
right.
I'm an introvert.
Right.
I'm an 87% introvert. That's what MBTI tells me.
Right now you're that other 13%.
Yes, but I have also seen that most of the people in the recruiting profession
Right.
are introverts. I don't know if that's coincidence,
Okay.
but we were running this MBTI for our team a couple of years ago, and then majority of the people in the room were introverts. So I think networking is important. For me, for example, I'm happy to have conversations that are deep and meaningful.
Deep.
I don't enjoy small talk so
Makes
much. So I think that's what networking is about, right? If you're able to engage in a deep, meaningful conversation, you are building your network.
So going by that, I assume that there have been few people in your professional journey that have really impacted you, that sort of like role models or sort of like mentors. Would you like to name a few who have impacted you in your professional journey?
Professional journey, actually many people. As a person, I learn from observing people and looking at their journeys and so on. I think my father.
Okay.
That's the first person I learned a lot from.
Tell us a bit about him.
He's no more with us, but he's somebody who always was an inspiration for me, because every time my family used to say, "Oh my God, you have 3 girls. How are you going to do this?" He would say, they are my eyes, like. And I would go and joke with him to say, "Papa, you have 2 eyeballs. You don't have 2."
Can't be enough.
So he's my first role model. He's always been a very positive person. I drew a lot of optimism from him. Today, I'm an optimist myself, right? And I overplay that too much. So when people come to me with a problem, I always look at, hey, but the glass is half full. Can we talk about that, and can we, solutionize for that? So he's been there all through my journey. I switched so many jobs before being a recruiter, and he was there to support me, support my passion as well. Although he said, "Don't do dance," he said, "You should."
Right.
He always told me that you are, you have to be.
It's a very progressive man from that time onwards.
Yes.
Wow.
And the next person that I want to talk about is my sister.
Elder one, younger one.
Elder one who
Elder
pushed you
one.
for recruitment.
Yes,
Okay.
for recruiting. Because she I think somehow she knows me so well.
What does she do, by the way?
She is a recruiting professional.
Oh, okay, nice.
She
Nepotism.
works for Standard.
Sorry.
Yeah, I try. Anyways, my sister referred me, and I could step into corporate though.
She works for Standard Chartered. As a
Okay,
recruiter.
wow.
Oh,
Okay.
Standard
Amazing.
Chartered.
Yeah. And today when I ask her, what do you see me become in future? She tells me the things that I'm already thinking about. So I think that's the connection. She somehow gets it.
So you talk to her, you bounce your ideas with her
Yes.
frequently?
Yes.
So how often do you because what I've seen is, and I don't know why I've seen this in Bangalore, because people are too professionally oriented. Sometimes their siblings, they're not that strong with their siblings. I don't know why I have seen that. It's
You're
it's
right.
an observation. And when I talk to you, you are very family knit, close knit with your family. So why do you think that is?
I should say I'm not I don't talk to her on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis. It's once in a while. But then she is my go-to person when I'm stuck, because she has worked with a lot of consulting companies, not corporates, consulting companies, where I feel the jobs of recruiters are tougher. In a corporate, you have that space, you have that leeway, not in a consultancy, because for you, a closure means revenue, right? So she is a great recruiting professional who I keep bouncing my ideas with. And it's very recently she joined Standard Chartered. So she has been in the space of consulting for almost 25 years.
Wow.
My God, my
Shit.
goodness.
Yeah, and very recently, just about a year ago, she
Damn.
moved to
We should
Standard
invite her
Chartered.
for a
Yeah,
podcast.
definitely. So now have the tables turned. You also help her out in terms of, she also bouncing her ideas with you.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So one is your dad, one is sister. Anyone else?
There are a lot of people who keep inspiring me. So I, like every day, right? Like I take inspiration from my team as well. The people that, are my team members, are my doers on the thing, right? So I think I admire, the kind of skills that they are able to bring to the table. Like, for example, there's a colleague of mine who's super assertive, right? Like, and super straightforward. I am not.
Can you name?
Yes, I can. She's Rakhi Kulkarni. She co-heads, talent acquisition with me.
Nice.
So we both pair for this job.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yes. And we discuss that very openly with
Right.
each other. We say, hey, in this particular conversation, I think you have, better strengths than I, so you be the,
Right.
person taking and leading this conversation. So we picked up this role together in October. She works out of the Pune office. We've never met face to face.
Really?
After we picked up this role,
Okay.
but we've been, pairing very well and doing what we're supposed
Amazing.
to do.
So you're like friends.
Yes.
Nice.
She's also been a long time thought worker. She spent about 13 years in
Amazing.
Thoughtworks.
I think Thoughtworks has that culture. I was also looking at their attrition levels.
Yeah.
They're very low compared to other consultants. Very low.
Yes.
And that's primarily to do with the culture, right?
Yes, I think people feel comfortable because they have the autonomy to do things their way. They have felt heard. They feel safe. Like I joined Thoughtworks as a diploma holder, right? Like I was not judged for my background, for my qualification. There have been companies that did not process my profile because I didn't have a professional degree. So Thoughtworks is, a slightly different, and people feel more connected and they resonate with the principles and values that Thoughtworks follows more than some organizations. So I think that's where the tenure and, longevity plays.
Okay. So if we look at your career, right, it's been like what, 18, 20 years?
20 plus.
20 plus years. In those 20 plus years, what do you think were one or two very smart things you did that you're really happy you did?
Vapasi. I'll tell you why. So
What is
Vapasi.
it? What is
Okay,
it?
Vapasi is a women returnee program that
Okay.
Thoughtworks runs.
Okay.
We first did this program in 2014. We've done about 26 technical training programs through Vapasi.
Amazing.
And 500 odd participants actually.
Wow.
And hired also about 130 plus people. So something that we did in 2021, Vapasi has been a long running program if you just notice the legacy of Vapasi, right? But in 2021, I pitched this idea of why should we give internships to everyone that completes the program? Why do we not just hire them on full-time employment? And so if you look at the concept of people who have been on a career break, is that they have, the industry thinks that they don't have the required skills. And they will not be able to perform to their fullest capacity because they have priorities back at home. They've been on a break, which means, they had a reason to be on a break, right? So they feel like, maybe they will not be able to 100% perform, right? And we keep challenging ideas, our own ideas also.
Yes.
So in 2021, we said, not every person might need an internship. Let's give full-time opportunity to them, right? But still provide them the same support, right? Support in terms of mentorship, support in terms of flexibility and whatever they might need, right, to be successful. It worked very well for us. We made better conversions. As a talent acquisition professional, for me, conversions matter. Although we don't, ask Vapasi participants to commit to a job at Thoughtworks, we say that you go ahead and apply elsewhere if you feel like.
Sure.
But, as someone from recruiting, it worked so well for our, talent acquisition strategy because we got better conversions. And we've seen also through Vapasi, the retention is far, far better because they have a certain connection, right? They've been at a certain stage in their life where they felt low on confidence, and you have that platform for them to gain that confidence, upskill themselves, and then, succeed so well.
Wow.
So they have that connection, and we've seen that the retention with Vapasi participants has been very high.
So, Maria, if we had to ask you one mistake in your career that if you could go back and not repeat, what would that mistake be?
Okay, so there was this one time when I was working on an offer.
Okay.
It was an offer for my own team member, and I think there were a lot of things going on at that point in time, and I was maybe feeling a little stressed. So the mistake I did was, instead of sending it just to that person, the offer was supposed to be getting rolled out to this person in my team who was on a contractual role, and we were converting that person into a full-time employee. So he was already in the system with a Thoughtworks email ID and so on. So I had to send this internally to them. Instead of sending just to that person, I sent it to the entire team.
Oh my goodness.
Big blunder.
Did you have to increase salaries of the whole team?
We had to, do a lot of discussions around that because there were a lot of people who started to compare, hey, this person is, getting so much. And yeah. So we had to, manage a lot of that conversation. But we didn't have to do any correction because we had a reason as to why we were, although we say, salaries are confidential, right? In this scenario, I had let it out in the open.
Yeah.
But we had a reason to stick to that because there was a parity angle, and we had to maintain that parity angle even after that incident. So
very nice. That's a very big blunder, I can imagine. Perfect. So, Maria, one final question. If a 23, 24-year-old person who's starting in talent acquisition, they're looking at this podcast, one piece of advice you will want to tell them that they should follow?
I think with the technology disruption, I think it's always advisable to keep yourself updated. That's one. And two, to be aware of what disruption it could bring to the job that you're doing.
Right.
And although, there is a lot of AI that's been talked about, and the disruption it can create and the redundancy that it can bring in, I feel like that AI is something that will augment and get you become more productive. So do not have that block. Explore, learn more about it, see how you can bring that, to be advantageous for you, right? Like, for example, if you're a recruiter who is figuring out how to build a Boolean string, you can work with ChatGPT, I suppose, to create a Boolean string and get your job.
What is a Boolean string?
Boolean string is a string that you build on platforms like Naukri to search for candidates.
Got it. Perfect. I think this was very, very interesting, straight from the heart conversation, and both on a personal front as well as on a D&I front. I think a lot of learnings for people who are listening and watching this. Thank you so much, Maria, for taking out your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you, Ankita.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Inclusivity First. Today we have Maria Nancy with us, and Maria Nancy is one of the greatest diversity and inclusion advocate in India. She's been working with Thoughtworks for over 11 years now.
That's right.
And Maria is an incredible resource for you all to learn about diversity and inclusion recruitment. Thank you, Maria, for coming to our show.
Thank
really
you for
happy
having
to
me
see
here.
you here. Maria, first we start with the elevator pitch.
Sure.
You have 60 seconds. Tell our audience about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Nancy. I work at Thoughtworks. I'm a mother of two, a 14-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I have an exciting phase of my career right now, at home and at work. I also head talent acquisition for Thoughtworks India, and I've been here doing some good work in the diversity hiring space.
That is wonderful. So apart from your profession, Maria, what all you do?
I love dance. I learned Bharatanatyam for quite some time, and when I have time, I passionately go and do that in closed doors, of course. I didn't have the opportunity to pursue, but if I got a chance and if I probably have enough money to fund my dance career, I would do that.
What are your thoughts on work-life balance for people?
I think it's all about planning and prioritizing. I have gone through a bit of a struggle with that in my early career. But over years and over experience, I've learned to, manage time, prioritize family and work both. For example, when I was pregnant with my first child, I decided to take a break. It was very deliberate, a 1-year break with my child. And at that time, I prioritized my family. And then when I wanted to come back, I've prioritized my career. So creating a support system around you and having the right, opportunity to go after where you enjoy being there, doing it, I think matters as well.
So as you mentioned, you yourself took a break, which was your choice. Yes. Have you faced the same things that people are facing right now when they come back from break, or your company supported you with the sabbatical?
So the first pregnancy, I took a proper break. I quit my job and I came. With my second pregnancy, it was just the maternity break that I took because I was in Thoughtworks. I had the privilege to do that. For the first break, I went through some struggle, both personally and professionally. So much so that when I was attending interviews after my break, I was so nervous, so low on confidence. After I, left the interview room, it felt like, okay, this job is not for me. I did really so bad at it, but I had it. It was Alcatel-Lucent that I joined. Great opportunity to for a comeback person like me, because I got to work with my ex-manager, my manager at Microsoft, who sort of understood my skills, my capabilities, and I didn't have to prove everything all over again.
So see, you got a support from an ally who was looking forward to mentor you and bring you to the next level. A lot of women who take break, they don't get this lucky as you, I would say.
Yes.
Because the struggle that they really go through while coming back from work.
Yeah.
Would you like to highlight that? What are the struggles of women returnee, and how all these managers who are at this moment taking interviews, beyond going to their personal capacity, how they can support the woman returnee?
I would start with saying, ask as many so what questions as possible. From my experience, for example, at Vapasi, that's the returnee program we do at Thoughtworks. There have been so many so whats, and it's amazing actually. Every trainer that goes into the Vapasi training batch is like, so what if you have a break? Right.
Okay.
It starts with that, right?
Okay.
The aim that we go with when we run a Vapasi program is not to teach them technical stuff.
Okay.
It's to teach them how to keep up their confidence, how to feel, more ready through their own self-confidence, because you've written code for so many years. With a 5-year break, for example, you can't forget coding, right? You might have to upskill yourself with the latest, but it's not possible that you forget coding all over. So we build confidence through our program, and there is mentorship, there is support, there is of course some nuances to coding practices and best practices with coding, but more than that, I think it's the support and the network that they get to build and get confidence from.
Okay, $1 million question. Your organization have already reached a point where you are focusing on all these things that you just mentioned.
Yes.
But what will happen if an organization is just taking baby steps, and how to build that culture in that management or hiring team that they are sensible towards a woman returnee? How a company can take step 1, step 2, step 3?
Yeah. Step 1, just believe in their past work experience.
Okay.
Like when I was returning from my work, from my break, the first thing I wanted to hear from the other person is, you can do it. And I got that confidence from my ex-manager.
Okay.
Right? Believe in their past experience. They have a lot of work experience that they can bring to the table. And the next thing is also, believe in their potential.
Okay.
If they have had a break, right? It's not that they've forgotten how to learn things quickly. They have the potential. They have the learnability to pick up new skills, to pick up new trends, right? And third thing is, give them opportunities, give them the support. For me, example, when we run Vapasi program, there are a lot of participants who come back and say, look, I so want to do this program, but I don't have the support at home.
Okay.
Right? And we get into coaching conversations with them. It's not our job to do that.
Coaching as in their families, or
with the individuals.
With the individuals.
With the individuals, to understand what are they going through, right? What are they really, what is important for them, right? Some people are so passionate about getting back to work, right? And they just need that little nudge, little push, right? And we are that, sounding board for them. They discuss with us what their personal constraints are, and we tell them, you could do this.
Okay.
You could do that, right?
Okay.
And we also put them in touch with some alumni from the program who have joined us as FTs to hear from them as to what their stories are, how they overcame their challenges,
Okay.
right? So we put them through a lot of those personal journeys with other people that gives them that, space to be there, be in it, go through that grind. There is a little bit of teething problems with family also. For me personally, right, I had to really put up a fight with my family to say it's okay for my 1-year-old to be without a mom all day. I need to go back to work. So for some, it's that push is really, really needed. And I would say, if organizations, if interviewers, hiring managers can give that little space, they would all be awesome.
So I've heard about imposter syndrome a lot, about women returnee or a woman in general who go to work. They face this. What are your opinion on how an organization can work on removing that?
I think one of the best ways to do that is, provide the opportunity to upskill and give a safe space for them to try things out, fail if needed.
Okay.
The Vapasi program that we run, for example, it is a 6-week training program, and they don't learn coding all day. They learn little bits of fundamentals and best practices of coding, and they then work on assignments. And at the end of it, they actually work on a project. Where they get to experience working with other QAs, other BAs on the team, other developers on the team. And then if it means that they are learning by failing, we allow for that to happen. After the training program, they go through an internship as well, where they are put in a client project.
Okay.
They are talking to, senior stakeholders. Maybe it is the, project team stakeholders or the client stakeholders. They are really in the job, and there is cover for them. We have mentors on the project. We have coaches. We have trainers who they have very good rapport with. I've seen a lot of people actually go back to the trainers and say, this is what is going on my project. What can I do? Right? So they have that kind of, support around to succeed.
Okay. So for the users here or the viewers here, I wanted to share the work and journey of Thoughtworks actually. Thoughtworks have been doing a lot of work in diversity and inclusion space. I would say they were the early ones to step into this. They have been doing incredible work for people with disabilities, people from the LGBTQ community and women returnees. They have a lot of paper released for other companies to learn as well. They have been collaborating with IIMs to release a lot of research paper which can help you learn in your organization how you can implement such things as we are learning from Maria today. Apart from that, as we have seen before Section 377, a lot of companies couldn't come in front and support people from the community because they were worried about the legalities. But Thoughtworks have been one of the kind organization who've been doing work before we got decriminalized. So kudos to what all you have pulled off so far. I have great friends for Thoughtworks. I have heard great feedback from all of them. So as we spoke about women returnee, I wanted you to shed some light on about the people from the LGBTQ community, what all Thoughtworks have done and how any organization can do better for their inclusion.
Absolutely. I think our journey in that space started pretty early. Not so formally, of course, but there were some thought workers who came to share that, they feel very unsafe, living in India, and they wanted, a movement to Thoughtworks US. And we made those moves possible. So that's how early we started our journey in that space. And then later, it slowly evolved. We've learned along the way a lot of things. So we've tried to do a couple of things there. One is, be a little more cognizant of the real challenges that people from the LGBTQ plus community go through, and be sort of, sensitive to that, not just, by sort of, talking about it, but by internalizing it, right? So we've run a lot of sessions within Thoughtworks, sensitization sessions, inclusive workshops, to help people understand and be aware of, what it means. And we've hired also people from the LGBTQ plus community in software developer roles. That was possible because we could do interning with Pride program, which is basically a technical training program for people from the LGBTQ plus community.
So as you spoke just about interning with Pride, So you are the one who select these candidates to intern, or if any person from the LGBT community who wants some upskilling, can they join your program, Interning with Pride?
So what we do is when we run these programs, we call for people to apply for these programs. They
Okay.
have to register.
Okay.
The criteria is that there is a basic criteria. They need to be aware of software fundamentals, software programming, but they also need to, register for this program by sharing their identity with us, because this is exclusively for the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay.
So once they join the program, they go through a 2-month training, followed by a 2-month internship.
Okay.
However, at the end of the program, it is an opportunity for them to either explore opportunities at Thoughtworks as full-time employees, or explore opportunities outside of Thoughtworks as well.
So there is no commitment as
there's no
such that they
commitment.
have to.
Yes.
They have to be with you.
Yeah.
But I would say, as you said, software developers, right? Privileged people or the ones who are having access to software education, because software developer mostly they're from science.
Yes.
I've hardly seen my friends who are queer having science as a subject, and they have been an engineer. I've seen very less techies in Pride community who are out and talking about it. Would you want to shed some light on the skill gap between the Vapasi program, once they reach Vapasi program, and what is their shortlisting? If in case a candidate is not as per, they don't know coding a lot because they couldn't.
Yeah.
What do you do for such candidates?
Yeah, there are two aspects to your question. One is for software developers, right? When we ask for them to apply for a training program, we assess for their basic coding skills. Do you know to write code?
Okay.
That's all. So we give a short coding puzzle and we try and understand, are they able to write code to solve that problem?
Okay.
And then we actually sit down to understand how they go about solving that problem. What is the thought process? What is the approach that they use? That's pretty basic, right? And then once they come into the program, they learn the other nuances of software development. Of course, through the training program, we do put assessment criteria.
Okay.
We don't hire everybody that goes through the internship. We put an assessment criteria to say, are they eligible to come into Thoughtworks as an intern? Because they will be on a project delivering to certain expectations. Also the same for an FT. However, we assess very basic coding skills and then help them upskill.
Okay.
Right? And internship and FTE is a later part of the thing.
Okay.
People who attend the program go back with a great learning experience because they have learned and upskilled themselves to a next level. Now, the second aspect that I want to share is for people from the LGBTQ plus community, and through interning with Pride, we saw that we were able to hire a lot of people from the community, but not from the trans community.
Okay.
Because the kind of privileges that they have and access to education, right?
LGB has some certain lesbian, bisexual, or
yes,
gay.
they have certain privileges, but not the trans community.
Yeah.
So we worked with a partner, Periphery,
Yeah.
where we engaged with them to give the opportunity of pre-training. Right? So they are at a certain level already, and then they come through the IWP and go through the rest of the training program.
Okay.
So it is a longer investment of time, but the idea was to, how can we encourage more trans people to also sort of, have an entry point through this program and eventually get hired at Thoughtworks.
Okay.
We were able to hire a few people from the trans community as well through IWP.
That is wonderful. I mean, from understanding the gap in market and actually hiring. So, this program is an internship. You pay them what?
Yes.
So, if a person from Pride community, what all facilities that Thoughtworks give during this training program?
They definitely get a stipend. And after they come into an FTE role, it is in parity with the other, early careers, as we call them, either a graduate consultant or a consultant. So at the part that they get assessed, they get the, similar package. But through the 4-month internship, they do get a stipend.
It is wonderful. So anyone who's from the Pride community looking for opportunities, then definitely get a chance to upskill themselves, not opportunity. Like sometimes we feel a skill gap. I think a lot of people are doing such wonderful job, like Futurance is doing such a great job, and I heard your story. It's wonderful. I wanted to know about the persons with disability, actually, the space of people with disability. How an organization can be equipped with all spectrum of disability. There's such biases in disability as well. Hey, I can just host locomotor disability with a limp, or I can just host a person who's visually impaired just because of their accessibility issues. Can you break down some points how an organization can be inclusive of all the spectrum of the disabilities?
To be honest, Ankita, I think we are still learning.
Okay.
We are in the very, very early stages. We've had a bunch of people that we hired through different career fairs and partnerships, of course, but we don't feel, very experienced yet.
Okay.
So in fact, now, as leadership, we are actually thinking about, do we need to think about the larger ecosystem, what kind of accessibility we need to provide for them and support that they might need, right? Before we go ahead and hire more people from the community. So we've had people with, of course, disabilities around visual impairment, about they've been in the locomotive disability as well. But I wouldn't say that we've done a lot of work there yet. However, one thing that we are deliberate and intentional about is, getting our space assessed for accessibility.
Okay.
We are looking at, if there's a new office built out, we are making sure that, there is accessibility that is provided and taken care of as part of the build out. And for example, the Bangalore office in Koramangala is not as accessible. So we are trying to get the space assessed and look at, some improvements to make sure that we are making small steps in that area. We went to Bhubaneswar for a campus hire, and we sort of, interviewed this person. And there was a big challenge, right? They were in their wheelchair, and we were like, if we hired this person, what would it look like for our space in Koramangala? And then we reached out to the admin team, and the one beautiful thing about Thoughtworks is everything is a collective effort. So when we interviewed this person, when we felt that this person is going to be a great thought worker, we reached out to the admin team to say, what can we do to have this person on board? And the space was made accessible for that individual. And we had that person working with us for over 2 years and contribute really immensely to projects. We make things happen even if we are not ready for it. And that's the beauty of the organization, because the leadership is totally bought into the whole aspect of diversity and inclusion. It's part of our DNA, and it's so important that we also set goals for us. Last year, for example, we wanted to be 40% women in tech.
Okay.
And we achieved that goal. We sort of made an announcement, public announcement, to say that we have this goal, so we are more intentional about it. We are committed to this, and we made it work.
That is great. That is actually very nice. My last question to you today would be how a recruiter professional can be inclusive when they are reaching out to a candidate.
We try and bring in some sessions exclusively for recruiters, so they can follow some inclusive hiring practices. I think the first thing would be just trying to use an inclusive language.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable to ask the person how they want to be referred to, so you can just use they, them, rather than assuming that it's a he or a she. For starters, I think that would be a great practice. And through the conversation, exploring more, trying to understand, what is that they are looking for from a workspace point of view. If it's, person with a disability, what kind of support would they need in order for them to be more successful, to contribute better, right? Trying to sort of, gauge that through the conversation and being able to provide that input through the rest of the hiring community, right? Because it's not just recruiters who are involved in the interview process, it's hiring managers, it's interviewers. So trying to sensitize, across the board, whoever is involved in the interview process, I think that would be a good practice to follow.
That's a great answer. Actually, I wanted to also shed some light on acid attack survivors. So Thoughtworks is focusing more on a lot of spectrum of disability. So we touched on women returnee, people with disability, LGBTQ, women in tech. Would you like to share some other aspect of diversity that you're working on?
So we also hire people from different backgrounds, technological backgrounds, that's one aspect. The other aspect is educational background, and the third aspect is also socially economic weaker sections of the society. So when we look at hiring for software developers, we don't look at Java specialists or C# specialists. We look at for software programmers who are good with their fundamentals.
Okay.
So it's more like if you're a Python developer, it's not that you can't make it, in Thoughtworks. In fact, we started off a reskilling program where we felt like our projects need Java, for example, but people in the market might be interested to learn that technology. They might not be good at it today, but they might be willing to learn that technology. So we hire them, and we also, through an onboarding program, help them learn newer technologies that is needed on projects. So that's on the technology diversity, right? The other one is educational diversity. Typically, you would see companies going into BTechs and, computer science to hire people. We also go to polytechnics to hire diploma holders. We run this program called STEP, Software Technology Excellence Program, where we go to polytechnics, hire people put them on a 2-year-long internship, but alongside that also help them finish their graduation. So through that internship, they get their stipend and they also get access to free education, free bachelor's degree. And many of them actually join Thoughtworks as full-time employees after 2 years of internship. The third angle of diversity that I talked about is, people from socially, weaker sections of the society. So we partner with Matram. It's an NGO, and they help deserving students get internships, get free education. So we partner with them to hire them as interns and take them through an internship and then a full-time opportunity as well.
Thank you so much for sharing the DEI aspects with me.
Thank you.
I'm very, very happy to interview today, and I'm very proud of the work you all have pulled off.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful
Very
organization to learn from, and keep sharing your learning with us so
Absolutely.
we all can practice as well. Thanks, Maria, for being here.
Thank you, Ankita.